Hey Tekken players, hope you're all doing well. So I did a poll on my channel asking what king guide my viewers wanted to see next, and this came out on number 1 at the time of writing the script. Also, it's one of the most frequently asked questions on my combo guide about how we get the blue sparks when we do the harder combo renders. So before I go into this, I need to say that to make this video I'm basically standing on the shoulders of giants, and the two giants in this case are two other YouTube channels. The first is Gelatin, apologies if I've got that pronunciation wrong, who basically did the Lord's work in figuring out exactly how the blue spark mechanics work for King by analysing and labbing all the frame data like an absolute chad. So be sure to drop in some love, and I'll leave a link to his video in the description below. The second is Azara the Flea, who also made a great guide on this, including how to buffer the blue sparks throw. Again, go and show that video some love and I'll put a link below. So now I've given credit to where it's absolutely due, let me explain the why and the how of doing these blue spark throws with King. So why, I hear you ask? Well, there's 3 main reasons. 1. The blue spark throw gives more damage than the regular versions, including in the combo, and in fact for instant screw combos it's a lot more damage. 2. In most but not all cases, by doing the blue spark version it means you have basically done the throw as fast as possible, which is good in a game where every 60th of a second counts. 3rd, and possibly the most important, they all look the absolute shit. And a bit like forward 1 combos in Tekken 7, doing blue sparks will create emotional and psychological dominance over your opponent, even if you then go to lose 3-0 straight afterwards. Now, all jokes aside, and apologies in advance if I'm about to sound like your parent, but in all seriousness, if you're very new to Tekken, I would strongly advise investing your time working on more fundamental skills that will serve you in the long run. For example, rather than spending an hour grinding away trying to get the blue spark throws, you could spend the same hour by doing 4 lots of 15-minute punishment training with say 4 different characters, especially the ones that keep blowing you up online. But hey, I'm not here to tell you how to play the game. If you'd rather lose more than you win, but you do so in absolute style, then you go and be you, my friend. So with all that out of the way, let's get right to it. Now King has technically 4 blue spark throws, and yes I did say 4. Number 1 is a giant swing, number 2 is a Tijuana twister, number 3 is the shining torpedo, finally number 4 is the Tomahawk, but for stubborn legacy reasons for the rest of this video we're going to call it Shining Wizard, Instant Shining Wizard or ISW. Let's start with the first 3 as they have roughly the same command. Now thanks to the amazing work that Gelatin has done, he has basically cracked the code to explain how to get this to work. Now I won't go over all the technical frame analysis, if you want to understand that then go straight to his video where he explains in much better detail than I can. I'll just stick to the basics for new players. So the first rule to get the blue spark, you must hit the entire command correctly as displayed. In Tekken, due to weird legacy reasons, some moves have alternative inputs that you can use by kind of cheating the system, including the regular giant swing. But for the blue sparks you have to do the correct input. The second and vital rule, the only part of the move that has to be fast is the final half of the command. So that's down, down forward, then 1. This is the bit you have to do quick enough to get the blue sparks. This is important to know when we discuss buffering later in the video. So the easiest way to practice this is to get the dummy in practice mode to duck in front of you. Now you can practice the command without having to keep resetting. Also make sure you have your command history open so you can double check you're getting all the inputs. Now it's just a case of practice, practice and more practice. Remember, don't sweat too much trying to do the first half of the command really fast, it's only the second half that you need to be super fast. Let's mention some common problems you may get. Obviously, if you get the normal giant swing, then you'll have to check your command history but you were either too slow or your inputs weren't clean enough. Probably the most common one you will get is this elbow drop, which is down forward 1. This means you are too fast in pressing the 1 button, and you need to make sure that you wait until your thumb has slid all the way forward to the forward part of the D-pad before you press 1. Another problem you may get is this while standing 1 move. This just means you're rushing it too much and messing up the input, so slow down and go back to square 1. Moving on to the shining torpedo, this is the same command but when the dummy is on the wall. So the best way to practice this is to go into practice mode and set up the reset options to be by the wall. Now splat them on the wall with this move, 1 + 2, 3. Then use the same command as the giant swing. Just to let you know, this is the max damage combo for the wall splat should you want to give it a go. Okay, so that's the giant swing and the shining torpedo covered. So not surprisingly, the Tijuana twister is the exact same thing only with the 2 button. So do the exact same drills in practice. Now in this case the common error you may get is this mid check which is down forward 2. So again, make sure you have slid your thumb all the way forward before pressing the 2 button. Now before we move on, let's talk about buffering. In case you're not aware, when we buffer a move in Tekken, this is when we input the command for the move while the previous move is still coming out. With the right timing, you can then make the next move, in this case a throw, come out with absolutely no delay. Now, I cannot stress this enough how vital this is to learn as a King player. You have to learn to buffer your throws so you can do them from one move to another. Just show you now some of my favourites. Now, it is possible to throw buffer into the blue spark throws, but it is much harder to do than a regular buffer. Again, for complicated reasons that the other videos explain much better than I can, the TLDR is that you have to make sure the final half of the throw, i.e. the fastest part, is actually inputted after the previous move has finished. This sounds complicated, but here's what I think is the easiest way to do it. Practice doing 2-1 into the throw. This is nice and slow, so it gives you time to learn the timing. Buffer the first part as normal, but stop when you get to the down back, and as soon as you see the second jab is finished, then slide the rest as soon as possible. This is all about timing and rhythm, so you'll just have to practice to see how it feels. Remember though, the timing will change slightly depending on what move you're doing during the buffer, so you'll need to practice this with all the various throw setups. Not gonna lie, this is hard and it may not be worth the effort. Just telling you how to do it should you want to for practice. So now we move on to the big one, the Blue Spark ISW, which is probably the hardest to do if you're a brand new Tekken player, but for Legacy Tekken 7 players they may actually find this relatively simple. Let me explain why. In Tekken 8 it's much easier to do running from point blank range. You literally just have to press the forward button 3 times, and regardless of how close you are to your opponent, it will just work. Now this was not possible in other Tekken games. So to do the Shining Wizard, you press the forward 3 times and then press 2+4, which is triangle and circle. But I'm afraid to say if you use the standard method that Tekken 8 has allowed you to do, you will never get the blue sparks. So how do we get the blue sparks? Well, this is when we have to use a legacy technique called instant while running. Now I made a video back for Tekken 7 and I suggest you go and watch it as it covers everything we're about to discuss but in far more detail. But the TLDR, to do an instant while running attack you have 3 options. The first is to press forward ridiculously fast. Again, this is personal preference but I find this the hardest one to do. The other 2 ways, you press either forward, neutral, that's releasing, then forward, or you do forward, neutral, then forward. Now when I say neutral, we're talking only a few frames, so we're talking a tiny little gap. Again, this will come down to personal preference as to what you find easier. So if you use any 3 of these methods fast enough, you'll get the blue sparks. Again, the first step is to practice, is just to get the dummy to duck, and then practice looking for the blue sparks. Once you get the hang of this, next step I would do a 1 jab into the blue sparks. This is worth learning because it's the ender for the max damage combos. If I had to give a couple of bits of advice, I would say that it's important that you don't do the first forward too early. Wait for longer than you think after the jab, as this will then force you to do the next part quicker, but just don't quite rush it, just hold it a bit, then press forward. Now a couple of more drills to practice. Try doing a hop kick, which is up forward 4, into the Blue Spark ISW. Again, this will help you get the hang of the timing, but more importantly, if you block a rage art, then this is probably the most swag way of punishing your opponent by killing them in style. Okay, so I think that covers everything. Again, watch all those videos I suggested, including the how to do instant while running moves, as this really covers the details of the timing. If there's any other hints or tips you've tried to get these more consistent, then please drop them in the comment section down below. If you don't want to miss on the next poll that I put out on my channel, be sure to subscribe. Thanks all, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.